Let me tell you something I got wrong about retiring and moving abroad. I thought the first step was obvious. You pick a country, right? I mean, that's the fun part, daydreaming about strolling along a medieval village or sipping a latte at the corner cafe without a care in the world, or strolling along a Mediterranean beach. The list goes on, but I thought that you pick a country and then you just build a life around it. But it made perfect sense, or so I thought anyway. Hi there, I'm Scott Baker with the Live Long and Travel channel. Glad you're here today. The more research I did on countries, it just became very obvious. I'm doing this completely backwards. Every place sounded amazing on paper and in video, but you know what? I never got that confident feeling of, yeah, this is right for me. And then it clicked that I'm focusing more on the country than developing or having a clear idea about the kind of life I want to live in retirement. So I stopped asking, where should I live? And I started asking, what kind of life do I want to have in my retirement? And and when I did that, everything just started falling into place. So I started with daily life. I instead of diving into countries, I started imagining what a normal day would look like, like a real day, a Tuesday. And I asked myself, like, what will my mornings look like, or my afternoons and nights, and do I want to be in a city center with everything at my fingertips, or do I want to be in a small village that's quiet and have to plan for activities, or do I want a car, or do I want to walk or bike or use public transit? Do I want to be, if I'm in a city, do I want to be in the city center, or do I want to be on the outskirts where it's a little bit peacer, a little bit more peace and quiet? And and then I thought about a language. Honestly, do I want to learn and speak a new language every day? Do I want to live with expats where it's easier, or immerse myself in the culture? I mean, a lot of questions started coming up that I really needed to be clear about. These weren't abstract questions. They were like the building blocks of me constructing my future life. One thing I had to be very mindful of is being active, and I'm not talking about just physical exercise, but boredom is sneaky. It's idle time is a devil's workshop, and I know me, and that I can become disengaged. I can suddenly not shower for a while and then not even know what day it is. That's dangerous territory for me. I didn't want a life that looked peaceful on the outside, but I was stagnant on the inside. I need to find a place that motivates me to get outside, to explore, to walk around, to meet people, participate in my life. I also thought about keeping my brain sharp, and I mean, look, how many times a day can I really play Wordle, right? So learning a language became something that I considered, and it's more than just about learning how to order a coffee or get directions or get help at the grocery store. It was about keeping my mind active in everyday life, having to listen and to ask questions and be curious, and instead of just running on autopilot. As I get older, that mental workout becomes more important than maybe I like to admit. But, and not being scary, but I mean, it's important that I stay focused, stay inquisitive, stay engaged. And the truth is, language is just a small part of it. I mean, it's the conversations, it's the misunderstandings, it's the problem solving, it's all the things that go along with that of learning or speaking a different language. It keeps my mind operating, working on a daily basis. Then there was the expat versus the local question. It's like sure, it'd be easy to move to an expat community. I mean, it's it's sort of like a plug and play. I mean, I've got people there that speak the language, familiar situation, familiar habits, familiar culture. But then I thought about, well, gosh, it's like in a foreign country, I want to immerse myself in that culture. And sure, it's a little bit intimidating, even a little bit scary. But I mean, it's real life, and it's like I'm a part of the daily fabric of life, the humanity, so to speak. At the end of the day, it's about choosing a life that keeps me stimulated, motivated, happy, content. Then I thought about being active and, the weather and winter, and I thought about, a typical day and it's like, walking around or biking or, maybe even swimming. I mean, just being active and then, running errands in the afternoon or just sitting in a corner cafe. I mean, who knows? But I mean, I just, I had to run those scenarios through my mind. And then I thought about, using public transit or own a car. It's like I need to run errands and I need to get around and do stuff. And then, I realized that, it would not hurt my feelings if I never own a car again in my life. Then I thought about the weather. I mean, what kind of climate do I thrive in? I mean, 4 seasons, a hot summer, cold winter, mild year round. I realized that winter matters a lot more than I expected or what I thought, because, it's like, what if I'm in a cold place and I become a hermit for the winter, and then there goes to that becoming disengaged kind of thing, or what about if the town shuts down in the winter after the tourists go home? In all this process, it wasn't about just what allows me to move my body around or the kind of weather, but it's about just feeling comfortable in my environment. It was about putting together days that actually felt vibrant and fulfilling, that match my lifestyle. And I realized that weather is an important factor, and I don't want to have to worry about ever wearing a winter coat again in my life. Once I had a sense of how I spend my day, I started thinking about, what's going to feed my creative soul. And, culture matters. I think museums and art galleries or theater, not that I want it every day or need it every day, but I like it to be there when I do want it. Creativity mattered too. I mean, there's photography, there's videography, there's storytelling, and not just for entertainment purposes, but it's for me to continue to create, and because that's what really fuels me and feeds my soul and feeds my creative spirit. These things weren't extras. I mean, they're a part of, for me to have a full and balanced life in retirement. Then I started asking practical questions about space. I mean, do I want a house or an apartment? Do I want to be in the city center, or do I want to be on the outskirts? And do I want to be near public transportation? Yeah, I mean, that's an important part of it too. Yes. Look, I've lived in big houses before. I've had that, and and I know that it takes a lot of upkeep and big electric bills too. And living on a fixed income, I mean, I don't need that much. I want to be in the right apartment in the right location that's going to give me access to the things that are really important to me. Eventually, reality stepped in, and that's the affordability. I mean, what can I afford? Where am I going to be able to live and live affordably, and how much am I going to be able to spend on a monthly basis? That's a separate video upcoming, and that's a big question in and of itself. But it's critical that I'm very much aware and I work through all that. This is where the dream meets the practicality, and sure, I can have a wonderful dream, but I mean, it's what's actually sustainable. Once I had a clear vision of my life, evaluating the countries became a lot simpler. I stopped asking, what's the best country that everybody's moving to, and I started to ask, what's the best country that's best for me and the life that I want to live in my retirement? I noticed which countries really align with what's important to me, climate and transportation and culture and, daily life, affordability, language, several others. If a country fit, it stayed on the list. And if it didn't, I didn't try to convince myself otherwise. I just let it go. Before this shift though, I went down a lot of rabbit holes. I read a lot of articles. I watched a whole lot of videos, and one would say, "Oh, this is a perfect place," and then the next one would say, "Oh, you'll regret it," and it just became more confusing and overwhelming. And it boiled down to this: it's like, what is the best fit for me, not for everybody else? That clarity gave me so much confidence. I stopped second guessing myself. Getting clear also gave me more than confidence, it gave me permission. I mean, permission to choose a life that's right for me, and that's not on some other checklist or somebody's top 10, list of the best countries to move in 2026 or something like that. I started focusing on what works for me. What am I looking for, and what's the country that's going to fit what I'm seeking? Once I could picture my days, my routine, my day-to-day life, is that that confusion just sort of faded away. What once felt overwhelming or confusing, it actually became manageable and fun. When you define your life first, I mean the country, the city, the neighborhood, it's intentional, and it's no longer random. Define the life first, the country comes second. It wasn't about settling for a country, it was about discovering the right country for me. So before you watch another top 10 places to retire in 2026, do yourself a favor and imagine your future retired life and how you want that to be. And that awareness is going to make all the difference in the world. It's going to make determining the country simpler, more logical, and infinitely more rewarding. So thanks for watching today. I really appreciate it. I hope you got something out of it. And likewise, I hope you'll subscribe and comment and let me know what you're thinking. And if you're planning to move abroad, this channel may be right for you, because I'm going to share not only the logistics of moving, but also more things about the emotional preparation that goes into it. And I want this to be a positive environment that people can talk about what's going on, but also learn from each other and be supportive. And as they say, a burden shared is halved and a joy shared is doubled. So thanks again for watching today.